Welcome to the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast, created, produced, and hosted by Heidi Hubner, with engineering and production by Timothy Stone Dancer Coleman. This show was created to celebrate good wine, amazing pets, and people from around the world who are doing great things in their local communities. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast. We are here with the legendary, the infamous, amazing Miss Heidi Hubner. She is our creator, our host, and our producer, and we love her so much. We call her sister. She has brought on, as you guys know, so many amazing guests over this first full year of our podcast together. And without any further ado, Heidi, take it away.
Well, hi, everybody. Hello, my brother, Tim. So happy to see you on the screen again.
Yes, yay.
This is our, I'm going to say our holiday show, right? It's our holiday show because it's December. I got to share my shirt really quick. Can you see what that says?
Jingle bells, Zinfandel. Pass the Cabernet. I love it.
I've turned into my mother. She used to do shirts like this, and I was like, oh, please. And, you know, it's become a theme for the show. Fun, silly, right? Why not?
I was just going to say, we had this really ugly sweater party at my job recently. And so you are well above and beyond the ugliness that I wore to that party. So I love it. I'm glad you put that sweater on.
Well, actually, I thought your sweater was pretty cute because I did see that. And Tim, I think we need to post it on the website so we can do side by side.
I love it. I'll do it.
Yeah, it's always fun to do those type of holiday parties. So our guest today is Christy Schilling, and I'm so excited to talk to her. But in the holiday spirit, I have to show you how cute this is. I'm going to introduce the wine now. Joy to the wine. So one of my women who wine, this was one of our white elephant, white elephant gifts. No, secret, whatever. And anyway, I thought it was so cute, so I'm going to unveil the wine. Do. Ta-da! Monarch Grove Chardonnay. This is from the Central Coast. It is an excellent Chardonnay. The tasting room is by the train station. So like if you take the train up in Grover Beach, it's literally right there. And it's so fun to see people like get off the train and go in for a tasting before they, start their adventures on the Central Coast. But they have a lot of different reds and whites, and a rosé I like too. But the Monarch Grove Chardonnay is the wine of the show.
Beautiful.
Which I'll be opening later.
Yeah.
Christy, we used to be like, oh, let's have wine on the show. And Tim and I are 3 hours apart. And so I was like, 9 o'clock, a little too early for me to be drinking wine. Maybe a Bloody Mary, but not wine. So we celebrate after the show.
That's right.
But without further ado, let's bring on Christy Schilling from Better Together Forever. Hi, Christy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, Christy. We're so happy you're here with us.
Happy to be here.
Christy and I have known for a long time, and I want to do a shout out because our friend Melanie Poses, who is no longer with us, is the one who introduced us. And other people, Bill Crow, who was on the show, who was a dear friend of ours, of Melanie's. But I may not have known Christy as long as I have if it weren't for Melanie. But I just wanted to give some love and light to our friend Melanie Poses and her husband Jay. So anyway, love them. All right,
That's
Christy,
right.
You're an advocate for animals. Have you always been that? And as a child, were you interested in that?
So, not to sound corny, but yes. I mean, from the time I was a child, I always was had just a deep love for animals, and people. Um, I had stuffed animals that I talked to and wrote poetry about and sang songs, um, and I will, never forget my first cat, right? That was my own. I loved cartoons, right? And so as a child, I watched Felix the cat, and then we had a real estate agent that literally like rescued a litter of cats and had them in the trunk of her car, and my parents let me pick one, and that was my Felix. So I must have been maybe 5 years old. I also was really into, this is also going to probably sound a bit odd, but telethons. I loved telethons, and I was an early riser, so I used to watch the Jerry Lee Lewis,
The
right?
Jerry Lewis,
Telethon.
yeah, Jerry
Jerry
Lewis
Lewis, yeah,
telethon,
sorry.
yeah.
It's been a bit, that'll age me, but I used to watch the telethon, and back then we got allowance. I think mine was like $5, to do my chores, and I called in and gave my $5, and my dad was so kind of impressed by that, because he said like my $5 was so much of value, right? Because when you don't earn very much, less is more, right? And so he gave me $20 to show like the importance of that giving. And then my mom worked at a very charitable company. It was a for profit, but in the financial world, and they did a lot of philanthropic things that we participated in, and it was downtown LA. So I was very accustomed to going to downtown and seeing Skid Row. And, she really always taught me that there's really no difference, right? Except options and choices and circumstances, and that any one of us could always end up like that. So the importance of keeping that in mind, and always giving what you could, kind of thing. So I like to say that I have always had sort of an affinity for people and pets, and sort of wanting to make a difference, and to give back.
So
I would
powerful.
also
I love
say
it.
your parents were role models and people who also influenced you, right?
For sure, for sure. Some of the things, and it's not just people and pets, it's the planet, it's the community idea, right? Because we did a lot of different charity work with her, with that company, the company she worked for. I mean, everything from like tree people to Habitat for Humanity. We did like Christmas in April, where we worked on a home. We did the zoo. I mean, so we did El Nino children. So they always adopted a family, or a couple of each department adopted a family. So we brought Christmas trees and gifts, and they did like holiday parties and had Santas, and I painted faces and made balloon animals. So, I mean, it was a really eclectic, wide variety. It wasn't just one little niche. It was about, certainly feeding the unhoused, doing things like that. So, yeah, it really instilled in me the importance of community, and giving back, and being a part of, just camaraderie, and help working together for a greater cause, a greater good.
Tim, you were going to say
Love the
something and
global
I cut you
community.
off.
Yeah, no, it's okay. I was just going to say, I really love one of the first things I'm going to say is I can feel your heart.
Oh, thank you.
And even as you speak about your pet Felix, even as you speak about the lessons from your parents, your family, um, one of the biggest things is I can feel your heart, and I can feel how important it was to you. But I want you to also know it's profound when the innocence of youth, right? And the fact that
Mhm.
you would take your allowance and from something that is, really I remember those telethons. They were really it's like an entertainment, right? Like you have to
Mhm.
really there's a certain level of awareness that you have to understand what they're actually raising money for. So the fact that such a young age you were tuned into that, I can see that you have brought that with you without even knowing you, this is our first time meeting one another. I can see that you brought that with you through your life. So I just want to say that that's really powerful and I can feel it.
Thank you. That means a lot to me.
And Tim, you also had such a positive influence from your parents. I mean, you're
That's
very
right.
similar. You guys are very, your backgrounds, your childhoods.
Well, it's 100% true. And it goes to show you, it doesn't really matter where you're from or what your economic status or social status is. Good people are good people. And, you know, my parents, Christy, my father was a Vietnam veteran. And then when he retired, he started a nonprofit that he ran for 30 years, which was all about getting kids off of drugs, off the streets, getting them into homes, getting them adopted. He was helping families. He had a huge kind of a warehouse kind of a office where they had a pantry where people, you know, the families could come and grab food so that they had food to eat and blah, blah, blah. And my mother was a pastor of a church. So, you know, a lot of what you were saying that your parents were saying is like, it can happen to anybody. And I think one of the things, you know, Heidi and I have actually spoken about this in one of our shows. COVID really, I think, brought a global awareness to how real it is that we are all only but one or two steps away from needing to pick up food, from from housing insecurity, from food insecurity, from all these types of things. And I think that moment in time brought a lot of people together. And I think it made people more aware of how hard it is to be a servant of your community and to be a giver.
Have you ever heard about the Sausalito Canyon Vineyard? Visit SausalitoCanyon.com to learn more about the history, love, and vision for the Sausalito Canyon Vineyard. And don't forget to let them know that you heard about them on the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast.
And so then, Christy, this kind of brings us to what were you doing before you started Better Together Forever?
Oh boy. Yes, lots of different things. That was sort of the standing joke, like, how long will she stay at a job? It wasn't more than a year or two, generally speaking. And not because I didn't necessarily like them. I think I was just trying to find my niche. But I graduated from Northridge with a degree in social welfare. So, you know, my plan was to help people, really. And I did. I worked in domestic violence. I worked with people suffering with mental illnesses and challenges. I worked with pregnant and parenting teenagers. I worked for the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles. And it's ironic because that's when I also really got involved with volunteering with animals as well, because that was always my love. And I did always sort of want to work in that field. But I thought, you know, you can't really work in animals, right? Like, that's a volunteer thing. Nobody gets paid for that. And although people did, but but I didn't really realize that. And so as I worked more sort of in social welfare and in those industries, and helping in those areas, it strengthened my wanting to help animals more, because it seemed like that was more solvable than these large societal people issues. I was struggling with really, I mean, I'm sure I made a difference, but not to the extent I wanted to. It felt like I was just like putting a Band-Aid on it. And so what I realized is, well, maybe I should just make money and give financially and volunteer. So I went actually to the for-profit sector and worked in event planning and human resources and all these other for-profit sort of areas where it was still sort of helping people, but not, you know, not the way I was. And realized I wasn't really making enough to do the impact I wanted, right? So I kind of did the flip-flop and was like, gosh, now I'm trying to make a bunch of money so I can sort of help financially, and I'm not really doing enough of that either. I sort of felt like I was always never quite doing enough. And then, you know, I just got really deep involved with the animal welfare aspect and really seeing that if I moved into that, that I felt like I could make a bigger difference, not just for the pets, but also the people. But those were more solvable problems, right? The pets seemed to be sort of that last straw. Like, my world is falling apart. Something has to give. And that was the one thing that they could give up technically, and maybe save a little, or, maybe get housed or whatnot. But by helping with that piece, it also alleviated a lot, because a pet is unconditional love, right? And this is something that a person, when all else fails, is there for them, right? So it's like the one thing that they technically can give up, but it's certainly not the one thing they should give up, because it's the one thing that's kind of keeping them going and that's been beside them through it all. So I thought by doing that, I could make a greater impact, and the best difference that I could, with the experience, and knowledge that I had. So I actually ended up, like Heidi mentioned, Melanie I'd been volunteering all along, right? Me and my husband transporting animals, adoption events. And so I actually did start my own not-for-profit that was in law and legislation. We opened our own rescue-only pet store. But what I was seeing is everything was on the back end, right? I really wanted to focus on prevention and helping on the front end before we got to that. And so then Melanie, who was the founder of Bark Avenue Foundation, she actually offered me an opportunity to take on Bark Avenue Foundation. And so then I was the executive director of Bark Avenue Foundation, and Melanie was looking forward to spending more time with the family and entrusted me to take it on. And then COVID happened, as we talked about. And so then that's when we knew we couldn't do what we were doing, which was prevention. It was spay and neuter. It was humane education. It was helping those that were unhoused be able to, keep their pets. And we couldn't do spay and neuter anymore, right? We couldn't be in parks and in lines and things like that. And what the equipment, the masks and stuff needed to be for people. We couldn't go to schools anymore, right? We couldn't go do humane education. But we knew that there was going to be a tremendous need, right? Because now people with pets in need were not going to be coming out. We kind of have to go to them. And so Home Dog LA was an organization doing shelter intervention at the North Central Animal Shelter, and they too were closed. And so we decided, why don't we come together, and why don't we go where people who still have a need are? And so we joined with YMCAs, and we just went out into the community, and our whole mission changed to just simply keeping families together, keeping pets in homes with their people, and what do they need, and how can we best do that to alleviate the animal shelters, to help get people housed off the streets, and that's better together. Long-winded, super sorry.
No, I mean, sometimes people say things and it needs a chance to breathe. That's very, very powerful what you said, and I just want to make sure that our audience marinates on that for a second. Right, Heidi?
Absolutely. That's why I was like,
I better stop because I'm going on and on.
No, not at all. Here's the thing is that there's no shame in or embarrassment in talking about what you're doing, or what we do, what we all do, is a service to the community, all three of us, right? And millions more people. So I think the challenge is getting others in the habit of hearing how to find their purpose through service. That's not an easy thing to teach, right? It's just like what you said was you went through a few different types of jobs before you found that thing, that passion, that fire, that burn that just held onto you like a magnet, right? And I think that process, it was really wonderful because you just explained it so organically. It was really wonderful to hear someone verbalize their path and their process to finding their purpose. I think people need more of that, because everybody wakes up on a Monday, they sit on the couch with their breakfast, and they're like, by Friday, I'm going to be on Netflix, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're geared towards, I'm going to be a star, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be rich, I'm going to be the envy of everyone. And we need more shows, more documentaries, and more things where people are like, you know what? I'm going to be in service. I'm going to help my community. I'm going to highlight the things that are great about my community and make sure everybody gets a chance to experience it. So that's what I received. So
Welcome to The Gladly, a contemporary neighborhood eatery nestled in the heart of Central Phoenix. Here, local chef Bernie Cantat crafts flavorful new American cuisine blended with innovation and tradition. At The Gladly, every dish is a celebration of taste, paired with the extensive beverage program boasting over 350 whiskeys. Join us and savor the magic of The Gladly, where every meal is an experience and every visit a memory.
Well, and also it's the people and animals together. We have to work together, and it is before they get to the point of having to relinquish their animal to the shelter. How do we help so they can keep that pet, that unconditional companion, that unconditional love? The animals don't judge. But you said that's the one thing we shouldn't be giving away. And I mean, Christy, it just goes back to your childhood and everything you've done before that bringing you to this point and continuing to grow. I know there are more things. I don't know what those are, but you're going to be expanding and doing, but it's keeping the people and their pets, again, better together forever. Let's not get to the point where they go to the shelter.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
And I think that's the hardest part, one of the hardest parts about your job, but talk to us about that. It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. So essentially what we do now, the overall mission, of course, like I said, is keeping families together, keeping pets out of the shelter, housed with their people. But we do that through primarily two programs. One is our shelter intervention program, surrender prevention. So we are 5 days a week at the North Central Animal Shelter. We have bilingual shelter intervention coordinators, counselors, essentially talking to people and providing them with options, resources, and support to avoid that pet from coming in, to avoid them from feeling that angst of, I can't care for this pet. They're better off here. And it's not true. I know people will say an unhoused person shouldn't have a pet. A person who can't afford a pet shouldn't have a pet. But the reality is that could be any of us at any time because people fall on hard times. There's financial crisis, people lose jobs, people get sick, and all those things impact. And when people are so overwhelmed and don't have a safety net, they make choices that maybe they normally wouldn't make, or choices that are impossible. You know, one shouldn't have to choose between feeding themselves or feeding their pets. So at the North Central Animal Shelter, we talk to people about their situations, how we can provide support. And the support is in the way of, we have a pet food pantry. So this year we'll have given away over $140,000 worth of pet food, which is almost all in-kind donations. We sometimes pay some shipping. We pay 15 cents a pound. So we can get lots and lots of good quality pet food. And we have some small stores that donate pet food, and we just get it from wherever we can. And so pet food can often keep a person, a pet with a person. We also provide vet care. So we don't actually do the vet care, right? So we cover the cost. And, you know, we don't have unlimited funds, of course, and we have generous donors and grantors and things like that, but it's not unlimited. But what's really shocking is $300 is generally what we give a pet for vet care. And $300 can almost always solve it because it's usually a skin condition, right? Which has just been maybe from fleas or an allergy. So just with some medicated soap or medication, and the same with like ear infections, right? There are really simple things. And even though vet care is very expensive, again, that $300 really can make all the difference. We partner with vets who give us discounts. We work with other organizations as well. So if a pet has maybe a more extreme medical situation, maybe it's a surgery, Sam Simon Foundation does a lot of free surgeries. So if we cover the cost of an x-ray or blood work, they can then get the surgery for free. So we do that. We provide emotional support animal assessment and certification. Again, we cover the cost. We partner with a clinician that offers it at a discounted rate. And that way we get people literally either keeping their housing or getting into housing or moving up in housing. So our other program is our Unsheltered People with Pets program, and we partner with LA Family Housing. So we want to be sure that the person is getting help, and then we help with the pet piece. So again, we still provide those same types of things. So that veterinary care, as well as that emotional support, animal certification. And I cannot tell you guys the number of people that have become housed with their pets. We are actually helping with homelessness, getting people and pets off the streets and housed together. Because a lot of times housing requires spay and neuter, vaccinations, and a lot of these pets aren't. And that's because the unhoused pick up all the strays. So they're the ones, right? When a person discards their pet or pet and, person moves and the pet's on the street, the unhoused will take that pet in many times because they can relate, right? They're feeling abandoned as well, alone. And so they'll take on this pet, but then they don't have the means or maybe not even know, the importance of spay and neuter. So we can get all that done so that everybody can just be healthy, safe, and housed together.
Housing humans and their pets at the same time like in my mind as you were saying it, I'm trying to process it. You know what I'm saying? That just sounds so difficult. Congratulations. That's a deep work.
Well, it takes everybody truly, because I can't stress enough the collaboration, partnerships. I mean, everybody, donors that give $1 to wonderful organizations like the Pet Care Foundation who grants money, and then all the providers that discount their services. I mean, it takes us all really, and the pet parent willing to trust in us that we are going to fall through, right? Because again, I'm not the vet, right? We hand them a piece of paper that says we're going to cover this cost, right? We send an email. That's hard in a world where people have been let down and maybe they have trusted and it hasn't worked out. People don't want to be judged. They want to be, respected. And, so it really takes us all coming together to make this all possible. And it is very expensive. I'm not going to say it's not, but it's not as expensive as housing and killing animals or people living on the streets. I always want to say we're making strides, because if we're not making progress, we have a lot of problems. So we are always, I think, making strides. It's just how big are they? What is maybe slipping behind? But I think the desire is there. And so if the desire is there, strides can be made.
Here at Tangent, we explore the possibilities of cool climate white wines rooted in the Edna Valley and the Central Coast. These wines challenge expectations and prove that every day can and should be a new adventure. Our innovative spirit is channeled into everything we produce, from colorful cans to screw-capped bottles to our wine itself. We deliver wines with the promise of being vibrant, fresh, and delightfully different. Find us on Instagram and Facebook, or call us at 805-269-8200.
So I think educating the community on not just the joy of having pets, but the responsibility behind having a pet, I think I think that would make profound change just in people's perception of, okay, I am actually taking on this responsibility. Those types of small, what I call teachable moments, are what people need to help them make better choices. But I now have to take the responsibility to learn what are those rules and laws and things kind of going on out there that I might be able to create a space for my community to learn about.
Well, and information is key for sure, right? Certainly, if we don't know, how do we change or how do we do better or make a better choice? And so a lot of what we do is giving people options, letting them not alleviating the desperation or the feeling overwhelmed, because we've all felt that. And wouldn't it be nice to have someone sort of we all need a hand sometimes. So someone being able to provide that. I mean, an unhoused person getting them housed, I mean, is like, we actually just had this person, his name is Gary, and he reached out to us thinking we could actually house him, thinking we were the housing agency, not realizing, no, we help with the pet piece so you can be housed. So we did, though. We helped him get his dog fixed and vaccinated, and he was on it. I mean, he kept calling and texting and whatnot, and his mission was to be housed by Christmas. And by gosh, in a week, we got him his dog spayed, vaccinated. Well, we covered the cost. He got his dog fixed. The ESA call was made, and he got housed with Volunteers of America. And he was housed before Christmas. It was done in less than a week. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen for everyone, but you'd be surprised how many times that happens. We had a veteran that just moved here from Virginia, right, out of state. He has a pit bull named Jill, not realizing where he was going to live, wouldn't allow her. I mean, he was bringing his 5-year-old dog into the shelter, and we were able to get him an ESA call within a couple hours.
The gentleman across the street, in the building across the street, because he uses his minivan to take people for free to the vet, or to the animal hospital when it's time, when your pet gets to the end. Like, he's well known in our neighborhood for being the person that you call so that you can sit in a comfortable space. He's got like one of the seats taken out, so there's a little bed in there for your pet, so they have a comfortable ride that last trip. That's how I had to deal with Onyx, my pet that I had to put to sleep. This is years ago. So shout out to everybody who is doing their part. Right, let's get those donations pouring in. Let's help these animals and families. And, thank you to all of our listeners for being with us on this full, wonderful journey together this year with the I Love Wine and Dogs podcast. Find us online, Insta, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, at I Love Wine and Dogs, all one word. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the cast, producers, or any affiliated organizations. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. Well,